Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of BandChat, where we talk about being an independent band and everything that comes with it. I am here with the guys. I am here with Mike.
Hello.
Austin.
Hello.
And Brayson.
What? For those only on audio, Brayson didn't say anything. He just stood up.
Yeah.
And then sat back down. It was rather menacing.
It was like putting his hand up for attendance, except he completely stood up.
He just put his body up.
I need to make sure you guys know that I'm there.
Great. My name is Miles. I'll be your host for today. And today, we're diving into part tour.
Yeah,
Nice.
roll with it.
Part 2 of how to tour. So last episode, we dove into what to do before you even think about touring, booking venues, booking bands, sorting out vehicle requirements. What else? We talked about merch. We talked about where you should stay, along with some other little tidbits that we came across. And today we're going to go one step further and kind of finish off what we were, or rather pick up where we left off last time. Talk about eating food. We're going to talk about some organization, and we're going to talk about tech requirements and certain things you need to prepare when you go in to play your shows while you're on tour. So those are the things we are going to go over today. But before we get started, we're going to do a very, very quick rapid fire icebreaker. And today's icebreaker is, what was your least favorite tour food? Austin, why don't you kick us off?
Oh boy. All right, we'll keep it quick. So basically, around the time we were touring in 2019, Tim Hortons came out with a Beyond Meat sandwich and chicken burgers. I tried them both at the same time. They're horrible. Don't get it. A&W does it better. Who's next?
Perfect. Thanks for that. I actually remember that exact instance. You were not impressed.
Very disappointed, boy.
I was so sad. No, stop. Okay. Next.
Mike, hit me.
Rapid fire.
Mike, hit me with your least favorite.
I'm so glad
tour
you
food.
picked me next because, mine is also Tim Hortons. And it's specifically the third consecutive day of Tim Hortons. That is my least favorite food on tour. You have it once? Fine. I haven't had Tim's in a while. You have it the second time? You're like, all right. But the third day in a row where the only thing in that highway town is Tim Hortons, that is enough for me.
I honestly feel like that. So your least favorite tour food is the third consecutive Tim Hortons meal.
Yes.
I fucking love that. And
Iconic
honestly, very
response.
accurate. I feel like 3 times is the correct number. All right, great. Brayson, how about you?
Okay, so I had to think about mine for a little bit, but I realized it was the Noodle Bowl at the Foundry in Thunder Bay. Just a warning to anyone who plays the Foundry, the Noodle Bowl is not great. But I was thinking, the first time I had it, I was like, wow, this is bad. The second time when we went back the year after, I was like, oh, this sounds pretty good. I should get it. Was it bad though? Nah. And then I got it. And then this time while I was trying to look it up, I looked up the actual menu. I was like, oh, that does sound pretty good. Deceives you.
Deceives you. So there you go. PSA, no Noodle Bowls from the Foundry. But honestly, they have some other good food. Burgers are good. Sandwiches are good.
Miles, what about you?
My least favorite tour food. I'm surprised nobody said this because I thought one of you was going to say this. My least favorite tour food was those god-awful fucking sandwiches we made at that campground where it was bread, cheese, like ham or turkey, and sweet baby Ray's sauce. Barbecue sauce. Because while the combo wasn't terrible, but in terms of comparing it to everything else, pretty bad, I would say.
Pretty bad.
That's fair. I hold it in higher regard because it's a cherished memory, but the meal itself was not good.
The memory I love, but we're talking about least favorite food.
Yeah.
So from that aspect, that would be mine, is the Sweet Baby Ray jack cheese turkey whole wheat bread sandwiches.
It is also it's also a haiku on our Twitter somewhere.
Oh,
true.
Okay, we have to find that because
I
my God,
will
what
put
is
it up.
that?
I will put it up in the video right here.
1 can of off spray, 8 empty kokanee beers, Sweet Baby Ray's sauce.
Okay, please do, because I remember that haiku being hilarious.
Yes.
So stay tuned for the haiku. It's coming.
It already came. Brayson put it right.
1 can of off spray, 8 empty kokanee beers, Sweet Baby Ray's sauce.
back there.
And for those of you in audio, maybe we can like insert an audio clip right here of the haiku. Be silent for like 5 seconds.
1 can of off spray, 8 empty kokanee beers, sweet baby Ray's sauce.
That was funny. We're great. All right. That's good memories.
I love how like Austin needed a fake laugh and then Brayson just burst into absolute real laughter. All right. So there you go. There's your haiku. There's the icebreaker. We are going to dive into part 2. I almost did it again, part tour.
Just roll with it. It's part tour of how to tour.
Part tour
Electric
of
Boogaloo.
how to tour. Here we go. We're going to start it off. So we're going to build off of what we just talked about regarding food. So we're going to talk about what are you going to eat. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind when you're eating. And number 1 is frugality, right? You got to be cheap. You're on a budget when you're touring.
Thus, the whole wheat sandwiches with ham and barbecue sauce.
Exactly. So frugality, what that often means, though, is good food isn't necessarily cheap, right? Would you guys say? It's not necessarily the cheapest thing that you find at the grocery store or at fast food restaurants, to be completely fair. So, in terms of what we're going to eat, can someone just tell the audience and the listeners what are our go-tos? If someone could take that for me.
Bagged salad, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just remember walking into one of the motels that we stayed at, and everyone, like the 3 of you guys, were just crowded around this one bag of salad.
I remember.
Yeah, I think we added like chicken to it or something just to fill it out a bit more. But man, that was a pretty sad food experience too.
Yeah.
You know what that makes me think of? The time where we bought a whole like $9 tub of potato salad from Walmart. And I remember us driving in like the pitch black. It was like midnight in the middle of Ontario. We were trying to find somewhere to stay. And Austin and I were like passing the tub of potato salad back and forth in the front seat, eating. Eating potato salad.
Yeah.
Okay.
That shit's good.
Yeah. That
okay.
shit.
Look,
Yeah,
what we're
Austin?
saying is,
I'm just saying, that was pretty terrible too. We've had a lot of terrible food experiences, but goddamn, are they fucking funny?
They provide for good memories, like you said regarding the Sweet Baby Ray's sandwiches. I think that's what we got to call them, by the way. Sweet Baby Ray's sandwiches. Just
100%.
rolls off the tongue.
Sweet Baby
But it's
Ray
true. They
witches.
create. There's a certain memory to the foods you eat. But
Yeah.
I guess it's important to say is that when you're on the road, like, yes, there are going to be times where you need to bite the bullet and you need to get those fast food meals, whether that be your Tim Hortons or your McDonald's or your Wendy's or whatever. Like it's inevitable. It's going to happen when you're in a pinch, nothing else is open. You just played a show, it's 1 a.m. and that's what's open, right? But one thing that is important that you got to keep in mind before anything else is your health. It is quite important when you're touring in terms of, especially in terms of what you eat. So while you're probably going to be experiencing a lot of fast food, it's important to mix in those healthy meals, I would say, right? Hence the bagged salad.
100%. Yeah, I mean, because like realistically, if you're going to be eating, unfortunately, 3 consecutive days of Tim Hortons, for example, which is not good. Tim Hortons isn't exactly the most nutrient-rich thing ever. So, things that we have found is that's been, super helpful for, filling the hole, basically feeling satiated and keeping healthy, buying things like fruits and vegetables and whatnot and doing things like that, making sandwiches, whether as, good or as unfortunate as they may or may not be, but really just kind of expanding your horizons more and just basically taking the time to make the right choices rather than making the choices that, might sound more tasty or, might be more appealing at the time. You have to think, you really have to think long term when you're making food choices on tour.
And honestly, there's something fun about pulling up to the grocery store and getting stuff for the van or getting because you need van snacks as well. That's just inevitable. You're on long drives. like Austin said, you need to be satiated. A good snack for this is nuts, whether that be almonds, cashews, or whatever you like. It's a good source of protein. So I would recommend those. And then, of course...
That took me a second. I thought you said peas.
No, it's
I said D's.
Oh, I missed that. I completely missed that.
Whatever nuts you want.
I'm just getting
Some of
Grayson
these.
today.
So yeah, almonds, whether it's almonds, cashews, or D's, you can choose whatever nuts your favorite. And that's a good one. But you also want to have the ones you like. You need to have, one thing we like is, the Takis. The Takis are good.
Oh,
ones.
yeah.
But essentially, the whole point I'm trying to make is you want to be going to grocery stores every once in a while, right? And I think it's quite a fun experience going into the grocery store, right? Like I think it's fun getting your snacks, getting dinner, getting a tub of potato salad. I don't know. What do you guys think? I like the grocery store.
Hell yeah.
I love
always
the
a fan
grocery
of the
store,
grocery
but
store.
the word tub in front of the word potato salad is enough to make me regret all of my decisions.
All
but yeah, it's
not
like
even.
everything that's gotten me to this point is like, ugh. No, the grocery store is great because it's frugal, like you said, but it also is like the best place for you to find like fruit and vegetables and like a varied diet. Because a lot of the time, like you're driving from big city to big city, everything in the middle is pretty much empty. A lot of like in Canada at least.
Yeah.
So your choices can be pretty limited.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, if you have to make, lemonade out of lemons, there are other ways to do that as well. For example, one that we utilized a lot in Ontario is going to their resident fast food pizza chain, Pizza, and ordering salads from them, which we called salads because we're 12. And essentially, because, you don't think, when you go to Pizza, you don't think, oh yeah, salads. So they don't really have them in stock. They have to make them for you fresh. So that was like a good, I guess, life hack for us to really make good, like, I know.
Really big air quotes on the life hack there.
It's you get it though, but like it's just an easy way to get like a fresh salad if like a grocery store isn't around, and it's just quick and easy greens. They're not gonna suck. So that's one example, but not all salads are made equally. So proceed with caution.
Yeah, and that was actually we did that quite frequently. Like I remember we would be like, oh. What are we gonna eat this time? You'd be like, salad. Like, okay, we gotta find one. We gotta find a salad. So just to be clear, we never referred to pizza as pizza ever anymore.
It's salad.
It's salad.
Or
salad. Wait, hold on, Brayson. We have to because we just said the exact same thing, but okay. Pizza. You said pizza, and I said salad. So that's a whole nother rabbit hole of inside jokes. But basically, it's just like sometimes you come across New York people and hey, you want a pizza? So now we say pizza. We're like that sometimes.
Clearly the entire band has devolved into nothing but memes. We don't do music. We are just full of inside jokes. So
and salad.
Apparently, inside jokes and salad. Okay, so fast food, grocery stores, balanced diet to the best of your ability. Because let's be real, it's hard to maintain a balanced diet when you're on tour. It's hard to commit to that, but as long as you can go into the tour in good health and
planning to eat well.
Exactly. Like, I mean, planning to eat well, but or going into it with the expectation that you're maybe not going to be eating super well, right? So that you can make adjustments. I don't know what adjustments that would be, like working out super hardcore before you go on tour. Don't think that would help.
But you could. You should.
You should because you don't get a lot of time to exercise on tour. I mean, tearing up and oh my god, I did it again. Tearing up and setting
Tearing
down.
up and setting down, baby.
All right, I think that's just what I'm going to call it now. Tearing up and setting down. That's just what it is. But anyway, so fast food, grocery stores, balanced diet. Where was I going with this? Next, the thing is, a lot of these venues are going to provide you with food. So you want to make sure that when you're planning out your tours, you take this into consideration because where you're going to be eating or where you get your next meal is very important. And you can often negotiate food deals with the venues. Yes.
Yeah, I think especially for a lot of bands, like if you've never toured before, if you've only ever played local shows, you're probably used to not getting anything. Like you don't get any food, you don't get any drink tickets. At least that's how it is in Vancouver. Whereas like I feel like venues are really good with out of town bands when they come through. Like they understand, and I don't know if that's the case in Vancouver if like out of town bands get food, but everywhere we've gone, like venues will feed you, which is great.
It is great because a lot of the time it's some damn tasty food.
We should
and there's nothing better or tastier other than cheap food than free food.
Exactly, because a lot of times, sometimes it's 50% off, but sometimes it's free food, which is anything that starts with the word free when you're on tour, probably something you want to consider hopping on.
Yeah. I was going to say, on another note, we should pose as an out-of-town band and see what venues in Vancouver we can get free food at.
That'll be like a good, that'll be our case study.
Yeah.
Coming soon.
We are
coming soon. BandChat episode coming soon. Actually, probably not because we don't know when venues are going to reopen. So scratch that. Forget I said it.
At some point in the future.
Episode 145. See you there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take note of that, people. Episode 145, Royal Oak venue
Write it
case
down.
study. All right. So negotiating food deals. Sometimes you won't be able to negotiate depending on what the venue is. But like Mike said, if you're an out-of-town band, usually they will help you out. So that's something else to keep in mind because then you can save a little bit of dinero. And also, sometimes the food can be healthy if you choose to, get a salad instead of maybe that fried chicken sandwich that you like so much.
Yeah, that's a
if
big
you want the
thing.
fried chicken sandwich, you can get the fried chicken sandwich. Just be careful.
You should do it.
And something to keep in mind as well is that when you're on tour, once you get sick, if you get sick,
When you get sick. I feel like that's when you get sick is
that's
been
true.
my experience.
Yeah.
And often that can result from not giving yourself the right nutrients, getting the right vitamins. You're in a van, you might not be getting as much vitamin D as you should be getting. So it's important to be taking note of your health and to be, I have a note here that says vitamins, hydration, sleep. I wasn't so heavy on the vitamins, but I think, Austin, didn't you bring vitamins?
I did. I brought gummy multivitamins with me because it's like if I'm going to stay healthy, I'm gonna have a treat. So
Perfect. So vitamins. If you're like immune deficient, just make sure you have all your stuff with you because you're gonna be on the road for a long time. And you just want to make sure that you're not getting sick because it's, especially if you're a singer or you have to sing, that's going to be very hard for you to recover and you're going to drain yourself. You don't want to have to cancel any shows or get burned out. That's not what we're here for. And then for some reason, this is under the what are you going to eat section, but I mean, this is a very important point.
General health and wellness section at this point, I feel like
Yeah,
we've kind of entered.
I think so. We've kind of gone off the eating realm. But this one is have more than one driver, preferably more than two. And I would say that is a good tip because if there were only two drivers,
Jesus.
could you imagine?
Luckily,
I was going to say that would be a grumpy van.
It would be a grumpy van. I like having more than two drivers. It just allows because first of all, the time is going to fly by as well. So like before you know it, it's already your turn to drive again, even if you have like four drivers. So it's really important to have that option to have another driver. Because I know that when we toured with Chersey, oftentimes Brayson, you would drive her car as a result of driver fatigue.
Yeah.
So something important to keep in mind. You guys have any other thoughts on that?
I think around driving, like in terms of safety, always two people awake. Like the driver should never be the only person awake. The co-pilot's job is to like feed them snacks and water and keep the tunes going. Everyone else can sleep because that's going to be like your only chance to get sleep while you're on tour is in the van a lot of the time. Yeah, I feel like that's always a rule for us, and
Yeah.
should be, I think, a rule for everyone.
Yeah, because we personally know of local bands who have gotten into accidents on the road because they've only had one person awake. So yeah, it's definitely, after speaking with people who've had that sort of the result of not really following that sort of rule. Yeah, it definitely puts things in perspective. So 100% recommended.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing is that sometimes the driver gets tired. Sometimes there's instances where the person who's driving, they haven't reached the end of their shift yet, but they're also just they don't have the energy to finish that shift. And that will happen. That happens with us a lot of the time. So then the next driver can take over a little earlier. So it's really important to keep in mind that you do have shifts, like set shifts. Like we usually do like 3-4 hours. Sometimes they vary. Sometimes people are in a mood, they're like, oh, I can keep driving. And then they'll just keep driving. Or sometimes people are like, you know what? I'm really tired. I'm not feeling well. If someone else can take the wheel. So that's also a very important thing to keep in mind, is having those shifts and also having that the next driver awake. So that if they need to take over the wheel, they can.
Yeah. Basically, know your limit, play within it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is a good segue into our next point about being a passenger in a van, is you want to be productive when you're on tour, right? There are a lot of things that you can do to maximize your time while you're a passenger in the car and you're not driving. Even if you're driving and contributing to the conversation, there's always work that can be done, right? So I kind of want to go around the room here, and I want you guys to tell me what's your favorite thing to do to keep productive. I'll get into the band stuff in a bit, so we'll get into making sure your social media is on top of your social media. But before we do that, I want to know how you guys pass time in the van, or what your favorite pastime in the van is. So let's start with Mike.
Well, this feels like two different categories. Favorite way to pass time in the van? Probably to play video games with our janky little TV that's strapped to the roof. That's always fun. We would play like a 99 lives, like Super Smash Bros. And the game would just take like 3 hours. And you're like, great, we're there.
That's true.
So it's that.
Okay, so pastime. Yeah, I mean pastime or productive. Like we can go down both.
Okay, this was life changing for me on our 2018 tour. I did this is I pulled out my laptop while we were driving, and I just cleaned it. Like I organized everything. I made sure that there was nothing on the desktop. I put everything into folders. Got rid of stuff that was taking up space. And that killed so many hours. Got rid of photos, and then I just had a brand new laptop at the end of tour.
Yep, that was going to be my favorite thing as well, just cleaning up your devices. Because when do you actually have time to clean up everything? Clean up your downloads folder, clean up your desktop if you're one of those people that has shit all over your desktop, or clean up your photos in your phone too. That's a big one. So that would be mine as well. Brayson, what about you?
I was going to say the same thing, cleaning up your photos in your phones and then setting your schedule for social media posting. So you're not behind and you're not oh, I got to post today. What am I going to post about? You can do it all in the van and just have a list and just go bang, 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 bang.
Right.
So that's huge.
Exactly. And we'll dive into that a little bit more in depth after Austin. What is yours? Same kind of thing? Are you on the same page? Or you have something else you like to do?
I mean, pretty much. Mike kind of already hit what I had to say on the head. It's either Smash or just cleaning up your computer. Everything else, I think in terms of productivity that all of us would probably say starts to fall under band stuff. But in terms of personal productivity, it's what much else can you do? Mend relationships, I
mean, I feel like what you did a lot was just sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so that's personal productivity. Sleep's important, kids. Get your goddamn, on tour it's probably 5 hours, but get your goddamn sleep. Find the best possible position you can get within a cramped van and get your Z's. That is, you know what? That's going to be my answer. That is going to be my answer, because you know what? Sleep on tour is highly underrated. And everyone's like, you don't sleep. Get sleep. Take the time when you can do it and you're able to get it. I sleep a lot more than them. I am the resident nap rat. I will put that out there right now. I think I've already had one 15-minute nap today.
Yeah.
I'm well
Damn, and
on
we're not
my
even
way.
touring.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a mess during tour, but also I run around like a chicken with my head cut off for like 45 minutes and then proceed to die the next day. But besides that, yeah, I'm gonna say, you know what? Forget cleaning out your computer and your phone. That comes later. Get your sleep. Feel good.
That's true. I would say that sleep is more important.
Yeah.
But like, just be conscious about it. Keep that in mind. Don't sleep the whole time.
That's
Because
what I did.
you
Don't
miss
do
out
that.
on things. I think like as nice as it is to be well rested, and you should be, like I feel like so many of the most memorable moments of tour are the in between moments of like being in the van and just like being rowdy. Or like when you go into the grocery store and like you could nap in the car, but it's way more fun to just like go into the grocery store with everyone, like
Yeah. That's much more of a space to be rowdy, because like the 5 square feet you have within the van to be rowdy, you're not gonna get much done.
Yeah.
but we still get a little rowdy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, every time we pass by Basa Gim or Saza.
Okay, we can't just like drop inside jokes in the middle of the episode where we'll be like, haha, that's funny. Like,
Well-
I get it. I think it's hilarious. Those are hilarious inside jokes. But these poor people don't know. We don't have time to explain it.
Well, here's the thing. It's a teaser for that episode.
We're gonna have to have an inside jokes episode. Like that's gonna have to happen. That'll be one of our like near future ones. We have to. I mean, put it this way. There's gonna be multiple inside joke episodes. There has to be. We have way too many. We basically, like Austin said earlier, we basically communicate in memes at this point. It's just it's just how we roll. But anyways, so if you're well rested and actually this is before, but like. Or before you go to clean your computer, you want to make sure that you're on top of all your band stuff, because at the end of the day, you are working. You are on this month-long, 2-week-long, however long your tour is. You're on this journey where you should be trying to maximize every moment of that. So one thing that is very important, Brayson just brought up, is making sure you're on top of your social media. So having that ready to go, having that scheduled out, making sure you're saying where you're playing. Like if you're going to Toronto, you want to have that, or on the 17th, you want to have that post ready a couple days in advance and be able to post it maybe the day before or the day on, depending on what your schedule is like. It varies because you might not play in a city on one night, then you might play in another night. Essentially, what we're trying to say is you just want to be prepared with your social media and be intentional with your social media.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a big one, is being on top of your social media and making sure that you're engaging with the bands as well. Maybe like making sure that you're checking up with the bands. You're probably going to be in contact with the venue as well, like letting them know when you're going to get in. I know that happened to us. Does that happen? Who is in contact with the venues?
Kind of changed a bit, I think.
Seriously, I think me and Mike mostly.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like right before we'd leave, like in the coming weeks, I would always try and I'd comb through our emails while I was building the tour binder and make sure we had that information already in terms before we set out, like, hey, what time should we be there? What time's load in? Like, what time's sound check? But sometimes you just don't get that information until you hit the road. But then you're just sending emails to the venue trying to figure out, should you show up at 4:30 or 7? That definitely happens.
And then, I mean, another thing that you can do while you're in the van, I don't know if we've experimented with this yet, but correct me if I'm wrong, but you can also just do normal band stuff. If you're in the mood to write and you want to write a song, I mean, it might be a little hard to bring out a guitar in a cramped van or to bring out a keyboard. But I mean, if you want to write some lyrics, I feel like that'd be a good time to reflect on while you're touring. That's something to write about, right? Maybe journaling, taking in what you're experiencing so that you can use that material for songs later. This isn't something we've really dove into, I don't think, but it's something that could be very useful to people, I think.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we have done as a band that's a little life hack. life hack. I'm just gonna roll with that, with the air quotes. But essentially, like a little life hack that we kind of used a couple times on tour, not for actual writing purposes, but just for like hashing out, figuring out harmonies for certain songs, making sure they're solidified. Is taking your laptop and just running the headphone out into like the cassette deck or the aux in on your stereo, and using for example, we used keyboard typing in Logic for this sort of thing, where basically that allowed us to kind of do some like pseudo chording and whatnot just there, so that way it's just, if you want to do super like rudimentary writing, like that's just right on your lap. That's super easy. I know not everybody has Logic, but if you do, you might have GarageBand too. So
yeah. So that's another thing that you can do while you're on the road. Just making sure, because like essentially what you're doing, it's one big, you can think of your van time as one big band meeting with breaks for hanging out as well. Does that make sense to you guys? Would you resonate with that?
Yeah, I feel like it's more like, and keep in mind, like you don't have to be productive the entire time. Like,
of course, yeah.
Like what we were saying, it's just, you can you have to take in the sights and sounds and the mishaps of tour, and that's really what makes it memorable. But so I'd say it's like half band meeting, half hangout. So just to kind of strike a bit more of a balance, I'd go with that. But yeah, totally.
I would agree with that actually. So if you're being productive, that's great. So you're being productive. Make sure you're resting. Make sure if you're like Austin, you need your naps. You're getting those naps. But one thing that relates to productivity is you need to be organized on tour. Okay, so this is where that tour binder that Mike was talking about last episode will come in handy a lot. So, but in terms of that organization, there's also another form of organization, and that is tracking your band as a business, as a full running business, tracking your expenses, tracking your revenues, tracking your merch sales, tracking how much you're spending on gas, tracking how much you're making from each show. These all need to be recorded quite vigorously. Right?
Yeah.
Vigorously.
Yeah,
I mean, furiously. Like
it's true. So I mean, I'm kind of I am the one who's the bookkeeper of the band. So what I like to do is have some spreadsheets. So there's a couple of different spreadsheets. One spreadsheet has details from venues we played to the people that were there to how much we got at the door, how much food was, the attendance was also on there. So we basically tracked everything for each show. And this isn't just for like tax purposes, it's also for that. But what this does, it records, we have a record of what we did that tour. And then going forward, we're able to know if we want to change certain things. So whether an artist wasn't that great, we might mark that. Like if they didn't really vibe with us, genre was off or whatever, then we'll mark that. If the venue wasn't maybe the best experience, then we'll mark that as well. We'll try to avoid those venues in the future. Or if they don't have a good deal, maybe we'll reconsider going there again. Because a lot of the times, it's not like a deal breaker for us, like deals on food and drinks, I would say, but something that definitely helps.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I would say the other thing is that like by recording roughly like the attendance of the show, when you go to book your next tour, whenever tours happen again, you can say like, oh, when we were there last time, we pulled X number of people, right? Like you have like proof essentially. We'll try and estimate how many people we had at the show. And then you can say like when you're booking the next time, it's not just like, hey, we're a random band from Vancouver. Please let us play, please. It's more like, please let us play. We'll bring 40 people or whatever, right? Like,
yeah. So it's never bad to record things. It's quite the opposite. It's only going to do you well. And if you need to go back and refer to it, then it's there as a resource for you. So that's one kind of spreadsheet I track is, like I said, venue, bands, how much we made from that venue in the form of merch sales, ticket sales, any extra donations we've had, those also go on that spreadsheet. But then this also relates to another spreadsheet that I have that is basically a tour income statement. So I have gone to school for accounting, so I know how to build these income statements. But you can watch really simple YouTube videos on how to do this for yourself if you need to. If you need to learn, there's a lot of good resources out there. It's not really that hard, actually. You're basically just listing out your revenues and you're listing out your expenses to see how much net profit that you're bringing in. So what would go into revenues? That would be everything from your merch sales that I was talking about. This would be your ticket sales from the door, any donations you've received. I mean, how else do you make money on tour? That's probably about it, right?
Yeah.
Begging.
So yeah,
Basically
if you make any,
what we do on stage every night.
yeah.
Please buy our merchandise.
So yeah, so you want to once you have that, you want to put that into a spreadsheet as well, and then your expenses is probably going to be the more important, not more important. It's all important, but the expenses is going to be there's going to be a lot more under expenses in terms of categories than there is revenue, right? Because for expenses, you think about it, you have your gas, you have anything that happens to your vehicle, you have food. The thing is, anything you buy on tour, you can write that off. So you can write that off as a business expense because you are traveling for your business. And I think one episode we should go into the nitty-gritty aspects of the band, and we can talk further about taxes and maybe more into building income statements and stuff like that, because I do think that would provide some value. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about that here. But yeah, so your expenses, and then gas is like a huge, like, basically anytime we filled up, I would put the transaction in, and I would try to make sure I would be keeping these spreadsheets up to date basically daily, or if not daily, as frequently as possible, just so it's not forgotten about.
Daily is best, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Daily is best. But I mean, sometimes you have I guess you basically fill up every day, but daily is best. I would try to do it daily. And then just keeping all record of your proof of purchases too. Keeping those receipts and for your tax purposes, because you're going to be able to write this stuff off. And another very important point is that all this, if you get a grant, they need all of this information. So the more information you have, the better for a grant. The more likely you are to get that grant. And grants require it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. Like, we've applied for grants and been successful for tour grant in the past for our 2019 tour, and they want everything. Like, they're giving you money. They want to know where that money is going, and like how you're turning it into more money, or like what you're doing with it. So
exactly. They want to
huge.
They want to make sure that money's going to good use and that you're reinvesting it into your own business. And sometimes that counts as buying a Tim Hortons farmer's wrap. It just is what it is.
Not 3 times in a row. No, that's bad. Don't do it.
For tax purposes, it's fine, but by Mike's standard, it's not fine. Just to keep that clear.
I hold Mike's standard as the top standard. So
honestly, I like that. I like that standard.
Cute.
Very cute. Very cute. Very wholesome. But yeah, in terms of organization, you just really want to make sure you're tracking where all your money is going. Because at the end of the day, as an artist, you are a business. Okay? And while musicians might not always be profitable businesses, you're still a business. Okay? And you need to record that. Because if you do make losses, you can actually claim losses on your taxes. Like I said, not going to get into the nitty-gritty of stuff. Just make sure you're recording all your money going in and all your money going out. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
And so with all that taxi, boring stuff being said, let's talk about playing some shows, baby. You know, this is what tour is all about. So let's talk about playing shows on touring, because I think that's the thing you're here to do, and probably the one thing we haven't actually talked about yet.
Yeah, we spent like an hour and a half to build up to this point.
Yeah, it's all been taxes and memes up to this moment, so we're getting to the big conclusion here.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, how to tour, I feel like playing the shows is probably the easy part if you think about it. technically.
Let's find out. Let's talk about it, huh?
Let's talk about
Yeah.
it. Let's talk
Let's
about
talk
it.
about it.
So, first of all, I have a note here that says, "Can the PA handle your tech requirements?" So,
Oof.
Austin and Brayson, this is your guys' wheelhouse. Take it away.
This is Bong and I normally handle all the technical stuff. So whether it be organizing in a technical standpoint or actually like putting together all the more technical and audio parts, I guess, of our live show. So yeah, let's start out with that. So yeah, basically the biggest thing is before you start embarking on tours, you should know basically what your standard setup looks like. So essentially what instruments are on stage, what kind of inputs are going to be sent to front of house. So in those kinds of cases, having a stage plot and input list are super important so that you can feed this to the venue that you're playing at, and then they can basically take a good evaluation of it and be like, oh well, it looks like you need 16 inputs and we have 12. How are you going to make that work? And then you go, well, I don't know. And that stuff is very good to know beforehand. So we've always found, and although it might be more of a more commonplace thing nowadays, having a stage plot and input list for shows, regardless of whether it's on tour or in your hometown, super important.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say it's so there's been times where
Brayson, we cannot hear you.
oh, that's okay.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, it's the Zoom call. Sorry, guys. Just break the fourth wall. Sometimes Brayson's too quiet for the Zoom call.
My dog can hear me. I was gonna say there's been times where we've sent our input list to venues and they just didn't look at it, and that can be the most frustrating thing when you walk in with all your gear and you're like, okay, we're ready. Here's our stuff. Plug in, and they're like, we're not prepared for this.
Yeah. So prepare for that.
Yeah, prepare for that. Look at the venues. Like when you're booking your venues, you could just do a Google search on the inside and see what the stage looks like, and you can get a good idea of how it all works. Mm-hmm. But making it as streamlined as possible for the sound person to do their job usually makes the show a better show.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for us, we found things like if you're running any direct instruments, so things like keyboards, any sort of sample pads, et cetera, if you're able to, bringing your own DI boxes is pretty helpful. And then in that way, the sound person isn't fiddling around trying to be like, oh, I only have 2 and like you need 4. So basically, a good philosophy for basically setting up for touring and make sure you have everything you need is bring enough gear as if you assume the venue has nothing.
Yeah.
So basically, TLDR, like cover your ass. Make sure that your live show will go off without a hitch every single time, no questions asked, and that you don't have to rely on anyone for anything.
Yeah, because there was times where we played an orchard. And they have nothing because, they're an orchard. Yeah. So,
I'll just go into this real quick. We showed up at the orchard and we're like, okay, where's the stage? We'll get set up to play. And they're like, oh, it's just over this way. And so we drive up to it and we hop out of the van and we look at the stage and there's like a speaker and a half. And that's it.
It was like, luckily we had a small mixer with us that we used for our band practices that we had with us as well as some PA speakers. This was on our first tour. So luckily we came prepared. We had things that allowed us to be able to, actually properly pull off the show. Although Brayson had to run both his bass and his bass synth into his bass amp. But
yes,
you make do.
Small things.
You do what you gotta do.
Small potatoes. So
smallest potatoes.
Smallest.
I think that's where it comes into keeping your setup as streamlined, as simple as possible is super important there, both for if you're playing the show by yourself in an orchard or if you're playing with 2 or 3 other bands at a venue, you got to get your shit off stage. You got to tear up and set down as quickly as possible.
Not to call out certain guitar players here, but for touring, having a stereo guitar setup may not always be the best idea.
Austin,
I'm sorry.
Can you further, like, what's a stereo guitar setup? What does that look like?
You just have two
Okay,
amps.
well, the people who I'm calling out here already know. I'm sorry. But basically, yeah, it's essentially like a stereo guitar setup is where you're taking the stereo outputs of your guitar pedals and you're running it to two different amps. And then you have stereo effects, right? And it's super cool. But on tour, it's not necessarily something that's feasible in terms of packing, in terms of carrying around, in terms of setting up, tearing down. It will just make your experience a lot harder. And in terms of a touring sort of capacity, may not be the best way you want to go about it. If that's something you want to do, by all means, do you. But just a forewarning.
Make it easy.
Yeah, like as a band that has, toured several times now, our goal has only ever been to make our setup easier, and it just makes you, your bandmates, and ultimately your back more happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's like every time we've toured, we've come back home and been like, how can we bring half as much stuff next time?
Yeah.
Like it's like
What can we get rid of?
After our first tour, we ditched amps completely, and we all got like digital modelers, and so instead of a pedal board and an amp, you just have a pedal board. Like we've gone wireless everything, so there's less cables. It's more simple. Like we have our own wireless in-ears, so we don't have to have the sound guy make a monitor mix for us. We've done all that ourselves already. So it's just like super streamlined. And honestly, like it's kind of a brag, but I feel like the comment that we get from sound guys is like, you guys rock. We love you. Like that, like, because we've just made their lives easier. And that's the reputation that you want when you come through town.
Yeah. So like not even from a, hey, you're a good musician, but more so you got your shit together and you're making my life easier.
Yeah.
That's almost as good of a compliment as being like, hey, your set was great, because it's like just having everything together and people like not having to ask so many questions. Because basically, what like to give a bit of a background on this, like basically, whenever we walk into a show, we bring in our gear. We'd send them the input list and whatnot anyways. But we'd have a copy of our input list, and we'd have a copy of basically the channels that are coming out of our in-ear monitoring rig. Is basically we just send direct feeds from the stage to the front of house guy with their own snake. So basically, we'd be like, here you go. Channel 1's this, channel 2's this, and you'd have a piece of paper, and then he'd just go to his snake hit on stage and be like, okay, dun, 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 and he just plugs everything in. So it's if you're going to try and do more advanced types of setups, whether it be in-ear monitoring or even stereo guitar rigs, for example, make it as simple as possible and as little of a headache on the sound person as you possibly can. Because at the end of the day, that's only going to benefit you, and sound people will just like you more.
It's true.
And they're a very valuable ally to have on your side.
Yes. So that's a very good point. But one thing I want to just piggyback off of what you're saying, sometimes you might not have the luxury of having that sound person. So you're going to want to have someone in your band that knows live basic mixing. So Brayson, would you be able to kind of talk about what someone should know going into a tour, just the basics of mixing a live show?
Yeah. Okay. I would say, like, if you want to get into it just real quick, is just next time you jam with your band and you have speakers, get on the other side of your band and listen to how your band sounds from that side, because that's the most important place that it needs to sound good. And what you really got to do is you got to learn how to connect all your stuff into a mixer so that comes through the speakers.
I want to say that hold on, I just want to interrupt you. That part is very important, because the amount of times where you see people like, oh, I'm getting no sound from this, and that's what the problem is. Like that oftentimes is the biggest problem I find. People don't know how to connect shit. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Learn your signal flow. There's lots of like great spreadsheets on Google that just teach you like a simple path for mixers, for like simple mixers. And like if you do it on a 4-channel mixer, it's the same thing with whether you have 16 channels or 32 channels. So the size of the mixer shouldn't daunt you. It should be like a blessing almost. And then adjusting levels so that it sounds good. A way you can practice that is to just pull up GarageBand or something like that and create a song with multiple different instruments, and then adjust your levels in the DAW, in the recorded DAW. and that'll give you an idea of how it should sound live.
And even just to kind of expand off that, if you're able to, try recording your band practice live, like, and have the individual recordings of each member. That will give you an even better idea of what you guys sound like in a typical live setting, and then mix that. So that'll give you even more insight. But regardless, just learning, basic ideas of where the levels of certain instruments should be will, put you in a great place to start.
Yes, definitely. So essentially, tech requirements, make sure you have a stage plot, you have input lists, make sure your changeover is quick and easy, make sure that streamline is simple, make sure your setup is streamlined, and bring gear as if the venue has nothing, unless you've done your research and you know the venue has that and you've planned for it. And learn basic live mixing. So and those are kind of the... Sorry, Brayson?
I was just going to say, and then play your show.
Yeah, play your show.
Yeah.
Play your goddamn show.
Because, you can go on, and we could go on for hours and hours and hours and talk about, the prep and, everything that makes a good tour. But at the end of the day, you are... on my microphone. At the end of the day, you're going out to play a kick-ass show. And, you've driven halfway across the country. Maybe you've gone to a new country or flown to a new continent.
Congrats if you have.
If you have. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. You did it.
You're there to play music and hopefully win them over and turn them into your fans. And, realistically, you have one shot to win them over until the next time you're back. So you got to make sure that everything works. You got to make sure it's all been planned out. But then once you're on stage, you just got to give it 100% every night. It's no matter if you got 3 hours of sleep because you're driving from the last show or what, you got to just give it 130%.
Yeah.
Because
and
people
make them remember.
Sorry, Brayson?
Oh my God.
I was gonna say, even if there's only 2 people in the audience, which does happen sometimes, if you put on a killer show, they're gonna come back next time and they're gonna bring their friends, and it's just gonna keep happening. And the more you tour, you're gonna get a bigger crowd each time. So just don't half-ass it.
And while you're playing the same songs every night, or a variation of the same set list, for the crowd, this is brand new. Right? So this is a brand new thing for them to see. So like Mike says, you got to be giving it 130% every night.
And it's that even comes to it's putting on a kick-ass show, and it's making sure all your transitions are good, and making sure that there's not a lot of dead space and that you're talking to the crowd, all that stuff. And these are hopefully basics that you've really honed in your hometown before you've set off on touring, but use all those skills that you've gotten from however many years you've played as a band and as a musician, bring it all out on stage, and there's so many little things that I feel you can forget. Make sure you got spares of everything, picks, batteries, change your strings, make sure you've just got everything, and that your show is going to go off without a hitch, and that you're here to play music, and that is what you're going to do, and nothing's going to stop you.
Yeah, I think with that being said as well, just in terms of spares, just the one thing I want to hammer home is, if you have guitar players in your band or bass players, bring spare instruments.
Yes.
For the love of God. You never know what is going to happen, and the last thing you want is for I don't know, your strap button on your guitar to come loose and your guitar just goes wham. And for some reason, if it's a Gibson, it'll probably smash into 1,000 pieces. So you don't want to deal with the aftermath of that, because a broken head stuck on a Gibson's basically a death sentence. But so just bring backup instruments too. Besides the small accessories, make sure that you have the space and that you actually have spare instruments. So
yeah. I mean, one thing I'll say, just for those bands that have 2 guitar players, for us, Mike and Austin share a backup guitar, so that's one way where you can save space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if that spare guitar has something go wrong with it, then you just surrender to the mystery of it and you just fall down and cry.
Yes.
No, don't fall down and cry. Still put on a hell of a show. Just do it without the guitar.
Speak for yourself.
What are you talking
Hopefully
about?
you can borrow from one of the wonderful bands you're playing with who
Yeah.
brought all the people out to your show.
Yeah.
Oh, that's much better. Yeah, don't cry.
You cry after.
Yes.
True.
You can cry after.
In the
after
van.
you don't go past curfew, because that's also important. Make sure you don't go past the scheduled curfew that the venue provides for you. And that goes for your hometown shows too. So we'll probably dive into that when we go into an episode about talking about shows. And yeah, just make sure your show is engaging, and make sure that people remember you at the end of the day, right? Like, make sure your show is engaging. You have something to provide for people, that they are going to remember you, that they're going to want to come see you again when you go on your next tour.
Yeah, and on the note of people remembering you, this may sound stupid, but remember to actually say your band name multiple times during the set. Don't leave it to the very end. People are clapping, and you'll be like, "Thank you," and people are like, "What?" And you're like, "Oh, too bad, bye." So like, don't do that. Like, actually, like, say it like right at the beginning, several times throughout the set, and at least at the end, like at least 4 times. Make sure people goddamn know.
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good point. You want to be the thing is, like, the people who are, you might be like, oh, but the people who are like at the front, they might get annoyed. No, it doesn't matter. Just repeat your band name. It's important. People in other cities might not know who you are.
In fact, they probably don't if it's your first tour, right? Like,
exactly.
Unless you've got cousins that are coming out to the show, like, everyone else who's at these shows are going to be the fans of the other bands. And you need to make sure that they don't know who you are. They know who the opener is. You got to make sure that they stay for you.
Yeah, exactly. And so, with that being said, another very important, I keep opening with, oh, this is very important, because it is. It's all very important.
It's all important. That's why we're doing this.
Exactly. That's why we're doing this. But above all else, you want to make sure that you are having a good time. You want to make sure that you're not being too hard on yourself, especially if this is your first tour, okay? Mistakes are going to be made. It's inevitable. Your van's going to crap out on you. You're going to have to buy a new transmission.
Not inevitable, but shitty.
Yeah, you're going to have to sleep on a trampoline in a barn at some points.
Not inevitable, but fun.
So oddly specific.
I know. Exactly.
We'll touch on that another day or another episode.
We will. But essentially, the point is, like, mistakes will be made. You might forget a power supply. You might need to go to the store and buy one. You might break a string and have to run and get your backup guitar in the middle of a set. Keep in mind, mistakes are going to happen. But the better you prepare for these mistakes, then the better you're going to be able to mitigate them, and you're going to be able to react to them, right? So while tour may not go as planned all the time, these experiences that you gain, keep track of all these, because that's how you know what to do differently for the next time you're going out on the road. So it's a big learning experience, especially if it's your first tour. You're going to be playing to empty rooms. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. Not all the time are you going to have people that come out, right? So just making sure that you're not too hard on yourself, that you're going with a good group of people, that you know that mistakes will be made. And yeah, overall, just, you got to have a good time. You got to have a good time.
Let's hammer that home, because we've been going through a lot of, like, you have to do this, you have to do that, blah 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 blah. Well, okay, no, not blah blah blah. It's all important. That's what we've been saying this entire time. But the biggest thing that we tour, it is so fucking fun. Like, it's worth not sleeping the entire time. It's worth, having a cold and maybe playing a show with the flu, and then as soon as you get backstage, you puke into a bucket. Hasn't happened to us yet. It could happen though. But it's things like that. Like, even though, like, sometimes you have shitty situations and you have to pay $2,500 for a brand new transmission in the middle of Calgary, like, first of all, you laugh about it later. Second of all, it's just part of it. The other guys will say this right after me here, but it is so fucking fun. Like, if you as a band can tour, highly recommend it. Please do it.
Yeah. And the
100%.
thing is, if you fall into those moments of despair or those moments of uncertainty, like, I know it's such a cliche saying, but I strongly believe it. It's what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like Brayson said to Austin when he said, fall down and cry. You don't fucking fall down and cry. You get up and you deal with the situation and you learn from it and you come back better next time. Right. And at the very least, Mike says this a lot, and I actually quote you a lot on this because I like what you say, is at the end of the day, even if tour doesn't go exactly how you expect it, you're driving across country or countries with people that you enjoy spending time with. And that in itself is very valuable.
And you get to play music every night.
Exactly.
That's the other half of my quote.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I forgot the music part. That's
It's all.
important.
It's okay. It's okay. If you're gonna quote me, you damn well better quote me right.
Yeah.
No,
Sorry.
that's it. Like, it's just, obviously you're going on tour because you like to play music, I hope, or you're making mad cash, which, like, good for you. But if you're an independent band, you're probably going on tour because you love to play music and you want more people to hear your music. And sometimes it's 3 people in Nelson on a Tuesday, and sometimes it's a packed room on a Saturday in Toronto. Like, you get them both. You just got to roll with it and just, like, savor every minute of it. I miss it so much right now, being in lockdown. Like, it's
truly.
there's no better feeling.
Yeah. Gotta savor tour. Tour just tasty.
It is very tasty. And with that, I think that's a perfect point to wrap up this How to Tour extravaganza, this 2-part extravaganza we've had. We hope that, those of you that have listened to both parts or just the snippets of it have gotten lots of value out of this. If you have any other questions that you would like to ask us, or anything that we might have not gone over that you're curious about, please feel free to reach out to us, whether that's through social media or through email. We'll leave all that in the show notes below for you. Or if you just want to give us feedback about how we did on our first kind of educational episode, because we do want to do a lot more of these. We want to be able to teach you guys things that we've experienced, and we want to share our knowledge. You guys have any closing remarks at all?
I kind of ended my last note on saying tour is tasty, so I just want to say, go out there and enjoy it once you can.
Perfect.
Yeah, and we'll get into our tours in a lot of detail, I think, in coming episodes. Like, we'll talk very specifically about our experiences with tours and probably, like, break down, like, a show by show of each tour. But that's something to look forward to.
Yes. So
hopefully,
keep your eyes out. We'll have those come in within the coming weeks. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of BandChat. We appreciate you all so much for watching and for listening. It means the world to us, and we will see you on the next episode. Say bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Come on.
1 can of off spray, 8 empty kokanee beers, Sweet Baby Ray's sauce.